Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole I told my mother-in-law that's all on her? My 5-year-old son's birthday is coming up and he wants a chocolate cake with chocolate icing. It's his birthday, so I said yes. My mother-in-law can be a selfish cow sometimes, and my son was telling her how's he getting chocolate cake and chocolate ice cream. My mother-in-law said she didn't like that and my so should get something we all like. My son said, "It's not your birthday, so you don't get a say." This would be normally disrespectful, but recently said this to my son when went to his friend's party. When my son didn't like the cake flavor and we had the discussion about how the birthday person gets to choose their cake flavor because it's their special day. My mother-in-law was shocked and I told her the same thing I told my son, when it's your birthday you can get whatever flavor of cake you want. My mother-in-law called me a bad woman and my son a spoiled brat. So I told her, with that attitude you won't be coming to the party. My husband was what the F and tried to talk me into ordering his mom a cake she would enjoy after our son, and I was rude to her. I said no, it isn't her day, and that just teaches our son to act entitled at other people's parties if we don't stick to the rules and etiquette that we explain to him, and it will just make him confused, entitled, and spoiled. My husband saw the truth in that because our son was excited about his birthday cake for his birthday and now understands that not everything is about him. Other people get to enjoy their special event how they want to. In return, my son gets to enjoy his special event and occasions how he wants to. My mother-in-law doesn't seem to get that and wants my son to write her a sorry note and what he did wrong. My husband and I don't feel like my son did anything wrong by repeating what his parents told him. My mother-in-law said she's not coming to the birthday party or getting him a gift without the apology note. I told my mother-in-law that's all on her. Top comments. Not the a-hole. But why is your husband not sticking up for you and your son? He's equally guilty here for that. OP replies. My husband didn't know the backstory of why my son said that. He wasn't at his friend's party a few months ago when I took my son aside and talked to him about hating the cake flavor. Not the a-hole. Your MIL's behavior is so entitled and rude that she got called on it by a 5-year-old. That should sting, but it should be a wake-up call that she's incredibly out of pocket. It's not spoiled at all to want to have your birthday cake be in your favorite flavor, but it's incredibly spoiled and selfish to tell someone else to change their birthday cake flavor to suit you. There is someone acting like a spoiled brat 5-year-old here, but it's not the actual 5-year-old. And hopefully, mother-in-law sticks to her word. You'll have a better time without her and her childish behavior in attendance when you're trying to teach your son how to act with maturity. Personally, I think your son acted well. His statement wasn't rude at all. The rudeness was coming from your mother-in-law, and he simply shut that down and stood up for himself. That's very impressive from a 5-year-old. Next story. Am I the a-hole for agreeing with my mom that it's kind of pathetic my wife can't cook? I, 28M, have been married to my wife, 31F, for about a year. Overall, things are great, but one thing that's been bugging me is that my wife doesn't know how to cook, at all. I've always been the one to handle meals, which I was fine with in the beginning because I enjoy cooking. But over time, it started to wear on me, especially when I come home after a long day at work and still have to cook dinner while she relaxes. She refuses to cook and claims there is nothing wrong with not being able to cook. It's been an ongoing issue between us. I have been trying to teach her, but she is really bad at it. Many conversation about this. The other night, my mom, 56F, came over for dinner. As usual, I was in the kitchen preparing everything, and my wife was sitting with my mom. At one point, my mom offered to help, and I asked if she could make the gravy or cut some fruit. My wife was standing around in the kitchen when my mom handed her a knife and asked her to cut some fruit while she handled the gravy. My wife couldn't figure out how to hold it properly and ended up making a mess. My mom watched her fail to cut the fruit and then blurted out, "It's honestly kind of pathetic that you don't even know how to cut a piece of fruit at your age." She then went behind her and started to guide her how to cut stuff like you do with a kid. My wife kinda shrugged and finished cutting her fruit with my mom guiding her. Dinner happens and I noticed my wife was not happy the whole night. My mom left and she was pissed I didn't defend her. That I embarrassed her by letting it happen. We got into a bad argument and I told her that it is pathetic she cannot even cut fruit. She is literally older than me and can't hold a knife properly. She told me that is not the point and I needed to defend her, and it's not her fault she is bad at cooking. I point out it is, and she is embarrassed because not being able to hold a knife properly is embarrassing for an adult. My wife thinks I am a huge jerk. Edit, I cannot keep up, over 2,000 comments and I have things to do. If you have an info may already be answered in a previous comment. So update, I definitely think this is weaponized incompetence. I will suggest marriage counseling and cooking classes. If things don't change I will be out. I will make this very clear. Also, for those asking, it was strawberries. She was smushing them and cutting them with the stems still on. Top comments. Not the a-hole. Does she do the dishes / help clean up? I don't think it really matters which partner does the cooking necessarily, as long as the other is helping, and the standard deal that almost everyone seems to follow is that if one person cooks, the other person cleans up. In my house, my wife usually cooks and I usually clean, which is fine because she enjoys cooking and is good. I'm okay, I can cook, but she's definitely better. My mom and stepfather though are essentially the opposite. She got home from work late usually and isn't a great cook anyways, so he cooks and she does the dishes. And yes, it is kinda pathetic that she can't even use a knife. Even if you aren't a good cook, you should at least be able to figure out how to hold a knife. That's just silly. OP replies. No, not really. I usually clean as a cook, so not much to do, and I don't really count putting your dish in the dishwasher to be much. Everyone sucks here. Your mom shouldn't have called her pathetic, and I can see why your wife would be hurt that you didn't say anything to defend her. You shouldn't have called her pathetic either. That isn't constructive and will only make her feel hurt and defensive. It isn't fair for her to expect you to do all the cooking, and needs to make a reasonable effort to learn. Especially something as basic as holding a knife. Did she not have a parent who could teach her? It might not necessarily be her fault that she never learned when she was young, but she does need to be open to learning more now so it doesn't all fall to you. As an adult, she's the only one responsible now for her gaps in knowledge and has ample resources to fill them. At this point, it's weaponized incompetence on her part since she refuses to even try. Insulting someone is the best way to kill their want to learn. If you and your mom make this a negative experience for her, she will not want to learn. You need to sit down and have an adult conversation with her, that cooking everything has been too much on you, and you'd like to bond with her through helping her learn to cook. Maybe you could even get one of those subscription boxes like HelloFresh once a week, an easy meal with all of the ingredients and recipe to follow, and you two can make a couple's night out of it. Not the a-hole. These comments are wild. Every adult should know basic cooking skills in order to feed themselves, such as using a knife safely to cut fruit. She had this coming to her one way or another, honestly. Not the a-hole. Your wife should at least know how to cut fruit and some basic dishes. She seems lazy by not even trying or asking how to go about things if she really doesn't know. I understand your frustration and your mom's as well, but maybe you should try to have an honest conversation about it. Again, there's clearly an imbalance and that shouldn't be the case. OP replies. She literally effed up mac and cheese, like the box stuff. I can't tell if she is doing it on purpose or something. I can't live like this. I can't take on all the food for the rest of my life. Holidays will suck. We are supposed to host Thanksgiving. Pathetic is a pretty vicious thing to call someone. Not every opinion needs to be voiced aloud. I suspect you liked your mom slamming your wife's lack of cooking skills because it felt like a win for you. But it felt like a loss for your wife, and it felt like another loss when you just sat there and let her eat that attack. I suspect the effect of it all is that your wife will be much more resistant to helping with the cooking, so this will turn out to be a lose-lose situation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my friend's share of the bill after she forgot her wallet? A few days ago, I went out to dinner with a group of friends. We had a good time, and at the end of the meal, the bill came. One of my friends, Sarah, suddenly said she had forgotten her wallet at home. This isn't the first time something like this has happened, but it's never been with me directly. She usually does this with other friends. Everyone was pretty quiet, and I could tell they were waiting for someone to offer to cover her. I didn't say anything at first, but when Sarah looked at me, I kind of awkwardly said, "I can't cover you, sorry." She seemed shocked and said she would pay me back tomorrow. I still said I couldn't because I'm not comfortable covering other people's expenses, especially when this has happened before. She got upset, saying she felt embarrassed and that I was making her look bad in front of our friends. One of our other friends ended up paying her share, but the whole mood shifted. Afterward, she also texted me later on saying I was out of line and should have just helped her out since it was only a small amount. Some of my friends are on her side, saying I could have just covered her since she promised to pay me back, while others agree that it's not my responsibility, especially since she has a history of doing this. Top comments. Not the a-hole. However, with technology today, this can be simply shut down fast. Without them being able to say you're a bad friend. Do you have your phone on you? Great, transfer me your amount. Once it's deposited into my account, I will use my card to pay. Oh, your phone is dead. No worries, here's my phone, log into your bank and transfer. Again, once the money is in my account, I will gladly use my card to pay, but I don't have enough to cover you before that. Oh, you can't transfer well. Would you like to call your parent, partner, or sibling to transfer for you? If your phone does not work, you can use mine to call. Again, I'm not paying for you, but I will gladly use my card once the money is deposited into my account. Sorry, at this point, I have given you 3 options for helping you since you forgot your wallet. Clearly, you have the money since it's so easy to pay me back, and you, of course, would not have come out here and eaten if you did not have the money. So let me know which option works for you, and we will proceed from there. Not the a-hole. She embarrassed herself. Assuming Sarah is an adult, she should be prepared to pay her portion of the dinner bill, and if she comes up short, it's up to her to figure it out. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister and her boyfriend out because they don't respect my sleep schedule? My 34F sister, 27F, and her boyfriend, 28M, moved in with me at the end of August after he was laid off from work. She doesn't make enough to pay rent on her own. The agreement was for them to stay at my apartment through the holidays so they could save up money and he could find a new job. All they'd have to contribute is $500 for rent and food. He has done his part and found a new job, and they have been saving money for their move, which is part of the reason why I feel like I might be the a-hole here. I work graveyard in a small group home for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I cannot sleep at work because I'm the only one there, and I have to be awake in case one of our residents needs me or there's an emergency. I spend my time at work cleaning, doing documentation, changing people's depends, making their meals for the next day, and giving a few of them their showers in the morning. Needless to say, I have to stay awake and alert the entire time I'm there. My sister has a difficult time understanding that I need my place to be reasonably quiet during the day so I can get my sleep. I could understand some normal amount of noise, but she took it over the top. Laughing obnoxiously loud, blasting her music or TV in the living room, right next to my bedroom, having loud guests over, being very loud in the bathroom and kitchen, etc. I asked very nicely many times to please keep it down, and she always apologized and said okay. But then she started to make it my problem and said I should buy noise-canceling headphones or sleep at my boyfriend's place instead. I finally got upset and told her they're being allowed to stay with me as guests, and if she can't act as such then they need to find somewhere else to stay. She spent the rest of the day calling all her friends and everyone in our family, telling them how horrible I am for threatening to kick them out. Our parents reached out to me and asked if that was true. I told them the situation and they're on my side, but said I should give them the month to figure things out. I called and spoke with her boyfriend and he felt genuinely bad about the situation and had no idea this was an issue. I try not to bring him into things, but figured since this would affect him, it was only right. Now she's even more furious with me because I went behind her back and called him and manipulated him into being on my side. I told her, look, I will give them until November 1st to figure something out, and he even said it probably wouldn't even be that long as they could go stay with his parents. But my sister is choosing to die on this hill and make me out to be the villain when all I wanted was some quiet so I could function at work. Am I the a-hole for kicking them out? I do feel bad because her boyfriend is doing what he can and is being reasonable. I just don't understand why my sister can't comprehend that I can't sacrifice my sleep and put my livelihood at risk. Thoughts? Top comments. Not the a-hole. She is a guest in your home. she needs to respect you and not invite people over herself. The audacity in suggesting you stay with your boyfriend, effectively kicking you out of your own apartment, is staggering. Her calling you out on contacting people about this is her throwing stones in glass houses because she did exactly that to slander you. You need that rest because your job has you responsible for people who are unable to do things for themselves, and sleep deprivation is dangerous. That trumps any of your sister's needs or wants in your home, or how her boyfriend is impacted. If you're on a lease, what are the rules around guests? Can you defer to that as a reason to kick out your sister? Retired right now. At different points in my career, I worked overnights. The first time, I was young and living at home, with parents, for younger siblings. I just about lost my mind with constant requests. Examples: did my girlfriend call? Will you please listen for the Sears repairman? Do you know where mom went? I totally relate, and your sister is annoying, and honestly, putting your well-being at risk. Being overtired causes accidents, poor performance, and even poor health. I had a meltdown at the dinner table that time. My dad was possibly the worst, but they got it, finally. Since your sister has chosen to not understand, because honestly, it's not a difficult concept to grasp. I would suggest calls to her several times a night, turning on lights through a mobile app, perhaps the TV. The William Tell overture blaring from Alexa about 2 hours after her normal bedtime, or my late mom's favorite Saturday call for Wake Up, for teenagers, Mahalia Jackson singing Onward Christian Soldiers. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting an acquaintance meet a famous friend of mine, especially because they didn't believe I knew them? A friend from when I was younger is famous and living in Hollywood. I live about 1.5 hours away. A while ago, someone in my friend group tried to call me out when I had causally mentioned that I knew this famous person. They refused me to believe me and kept asking for proof. I refused to give it them because I didn't think I owed someone that, especially someone I don't know all that well. I am going to be seeing my friend this weekend. The acquaintance asked to meet the person. They are a fan. I declined. The acquaintance now claims they pretty much believe me and want to meet my friend. I told them absolutely not because they didn't believe I was friends with them and I'm not close to them anyways, so I feel I owe them nothing. The acquaintance thinks I'm being mean/holding a grudge and that I'm gatekeeping my friend by not allowing them to tag along to meet them. Am I the a-hole? Edit: I think some people are making false assumptions. Obviously, I wouldn't randomly bring someone to meet my friend. Anytime someone in my life meets my friend, I of course would run it past my friend. In reality, my friend always asks if I have anyone I'd like to bring to certain events they have. Invite me too. Edit: another thing to add. I don't just randomly bring up that I know famous people, but if it is relevant/I am asked or if it exists in the context, I don't hide it. Top comments. Not the a-hole, and yet this shouldn't be even an issue. I would assume that a famous person wanting to hang out with an old friend wants to do just that, hang out with an old friend, not be put on display for some fanboy. I would think if you were considering taking some fan/acquaintance along, no matter the situation, it would be insulting to the famous friend unless it was purposeful, like, want you to meet my fiancé, or my bestie who you hear me talking about, not just some random friend or acquaintance that want to meet them or whom you are trying to impress. Not the a-hole. You're absolutely gatekeeping, but it's the correct thing to do in this situation. You don't owe anyone a fan introduction to your famous friend, and I'm sure your famous friend is glad you're guarding the gate of who hangs out with them. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.